So I know you guys are probably not expecting this video from me because recently in the last 3-4 months I've really been focusing on Nintendo Switch stuff, and I really do want to branch out my channel, not to anything to the extent of anything outside of technology, but I do want to talk about more technology, more gaming things outside of the Nintendo Switch. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the upcoming Samsung Galaxy S8 phone. Now, I do have it on my other display right here because there is a lot to talk about when it comes to talking about the phone, and I don't want to mislead you guys of any false information, so that's why I have it blasted up on the screen. So a lot of the time in this video I will be focusing on my screen right here. So this phone is going to come in two different variants. It's going to come in a Galaxy S8 and an S8 Plus. Now with this S8 phone, you're not going to be able to get it in a Edge version like the last past Samsung phones. Like the S6 came in an Edge and the S7 came in an Edge. Unfortunately, with the S8 line, you're not getting an Edge phone with either model, whether you go with the S8 or the S8 Plus. Unfortunately, the Edge models are not available. The reason for that is because they have a new display called the Infinity display, and the Infinity display basically is an edge-to-edge display, so it's basically bezel-less, so there'd be really no point to have an Edge phone anymore if they're going to go with a bezel-less phone. Now, the S8 regular is going to be a 5.8-inch screen, and the Galaxy S8 Plus is going to be a 6.2-inch phone. Now, I've been looking up some stuff on the internet about this, and what I can say is that a lot of people have already gotten their hands on the 6.2-inch Galaxy S8, and with the screen being edge-to-edge, or a bezel-less screen, there hasn't really been any people have been talking about it's been too big in the hand. A lot of people say even though it's a 6.2-inch screen, it doesn't really feel too big in the hand because there's no bezels anymore. But you'll have to get your hands on the phone to see if 6.2 inches is actually too big. But just from what I'm hearing from other sources saying that it's actually not too big in the hand, even if you go with the 6.2-inch model. So it looks like you're stuck with big phones this time around when it comes with the Galaxy S8 or the S8 Plus. You can't get anything lower than 5.8 inches. So if you're a person that likes small phones, unfortunately Samsung's not delivering a small phone, at least right out of the gate with the S8 line. But we all know how Samsung is down the line. They like to make different iterations of the S line. Like they like to make an S8, S Active, S Mini, and things like that. So without a doubt, they could actually release another S phone down the line that's smaller and things like that. So don't hold your breath on that. It is 100% likely that they will. Now this phone is going to come in a lot of colors, and Samsung has been making different colors in the past, but not to this extent. The Samsung Galaxy S8 is really going to get a lot of different colors. So if you like color options, you definitely have a lot of color options down the pike. One is going to be Midnight Black, Orchid Gray, Coral Blue, Arctic Silver, Maple Gold. Now, a lot of these colors have already been in past Samsung devices, but we are getting some new colors. Honestly, I can't recommend any other colors because I would have to see them in person, and what they're saying is the color may actually look different in person as well. Because I remember when I got my Note 5, it was supposed to be black, but when you actually hold it up to the light, it actually looked more dark blue, more of a bluish color than a black color. So just take note, you're going to have to see them in a store to actually make your judgment on the actual colors. And what I'm seeing, I'm not 100% sure on what I'm seeing, but it's looking like with the S8 phones, you're only going to get a glossy finish for the phone. You're not going to get any matte finishes. Would it have been nice if Samsung had made some if they made some matte finishes? Yes, it would have been really nice if Samsung would have made some matte finishes on the phone, because you know Apple has already released a matte black, and honestly, for me, I am more of a fan of the matte finishes just because they don't get as much fingerprints on the actual device, and they're not as prone to scratching up as easily. Not to say the matte finishes can scratch up. Yes, the matte finishes can scratch up and ding as well, but it's more hard for them to ding. So if you're a person that's paranoid, just like with any other last Samsung phones, S7, S6, Note 5, you're definitely going to have to get some protection if you don't like fingerprints or scratching on the phone. Unfortunately, it's just a shame they didn't make any matte colors That would have been really, really nice. Now, moving on, the displays are pretty much what you're about to expect. They're quad HD displays for both of them. Obviously, if you go with the smaller 5.8-inch phone, the resolution and the pixel density is going to be way more better. So if you're a person that wants the crispiest screen you can possibly get with these new phones, then obviously you're going to want to go with the 5.8-inch screen compared to the 6.2-inch screen. Should have Samsung went the true 4K? Honestly, it's not really needed with phones anymore because with this resolution, you can't even tell there's any pixelation on the screen if you're viewing content that's gonna go with the screens. If you get any content that matches the screen resolution, you can't really tell if there's any pixelation with the content you are viewing. Now, one thing the new displays are going to have, they're going to have HDR. So if you've ever experienced HDR on a monitor or on a TV, then you'll really enjoy these displays. These are the first Samsung phones that are going to have HDR in the phones. So they will be the best Samsung screen phones that they've ever produced on the market. And if I didn't already mention it, they are Super AMOLED. They're still using their AMOLED technology, which is flat out fantastic. I know a lot of people don't like AMOLED screens just because they say they're too oversaturated, but for me personally, I do like my blacks being blacker. Overall, I like the colors being more saturated than your standard IPS display. I really do love AMOLED displays. I think they're flat out gorgeous. And the pixel density on the 5.8-inch one is going to be 570 pixels per inch, and on the 6.2-inch Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus is going to be 529 pixels per inch. So you can see that the regular S8 is definitely going to have more pixels per inch than the other one. But honestly, with the displays being this pixel dense, you're not going to notice the difference unless you really put it like in testing and whatnot. You're not going to notice the difference. So don't feel like you want a bigger screen, but you still want the resolution of are the more pixel dense of the 5.8 ones, because honestly, you won't really tell the difference, to be honest. Moving on, we are getting a new front-facing camera. The front-facing camera here is going to be bumped up. The best one they have, of course, is going to be an 8-megapixel. So for all you selfie lovers, and for all you front-facing camera lovers, then you're definitely going to love this camera again. Of course, an upgraded camera. And then on the back, I think we are getting a I don't really see it anywhere here. It's saying the front camera is 8 megapixels. I'm not seeing the rear. It looks like the rear camera is going to have a dual pixel 12 megapixel. Again, it's going to look like that. It might look a little bit better than the S7 or Note 7, but for the most part, it's going to look on par or better than that. So, without a doubt, you're getting some of the best cameras on a smartphone when you're buying these two, without a doubt. You're getting some of the best cameras on the market. And then again, with the S8 and S8 Plus, you're getting IPS certification, which means it's going to be waterproof and dust resistant. So don't worry about accidentally getting water on it or being in a dusty environment. You should be okay to go on that line as well. And then, of course, we also still got 4K video on the rear-facing camera, 1080p, 720. You can do all that jazz. Pretty much what you come to expect. And then with the memory, I'm actually really surprised about this. I've been surprised about this for a while because on the Note 5, which is an old phone, it runs 4 gig of RAM, and this phone still runs 4 gig of RAM. Of course, the speed of the RAM is probably better than the older Samsung phones, but I'm kind of surprised that Samsung is still going 4 gigs of RAM with these new phones. You would think they would go 5, 6 gigs, but I guess they don't. And honestly, with Android being optimized for the new phones and with new stuff, you really don't need more than 4 gig of RAM. Of course, I'll say that now, but in the future, we'll be looking at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 gigs of RAM. But honestly, it's not really needed. And with Android being so optimized now, it really does take full effect of the 4 gig of RAM. It looks like the 4 gig of RAM here is going to be LPD DDR4, so you are going to be getting pretty fast RAM when it comes to phone memory. They're both going to have the same internal specs. It looks like both phones aren't going to be getting different specs. So if you're thinking that the S8 Plus or the S8 maybe have different specs, no, you're just paying for that bigger screen real estate is what it's looking like. It's looking like you're not getting any different specs within your phone. You would think that the bigger phone may have bigger specs, but you're not. One thing the S8 Plus does have to take in consideration that the regular S8 doesn't have is it's going to have a bigger battery, but that's to be expected with the casing being bigger. You're going up from the S8 standard 3,000 milliamp battery to the S8 Plus, which is going to have a 3,500 milliamp battery, which is going to be bigger. Let me go ahead and check that out. Confirm that real quick. I'm trying to look around right here for battery, camera, both video recording, performance, network, OS, audio. I'm still looking around for it. Battery. Yeah, 3,500. I was not 100% sure. I thought it could have been 3,400 milliamp by mistake, but no, it's 3,500. I think also, even though the S8 Plus could hold a bigger battery, I think the thing here is also you got to realize is that the Note 7 all exploded. We all know that, and Samsung is just trying to be a little bit safe with the S8 line, so they don't want to make anything bigger. They could have definitely probably put bigger in, but for a battery explosion, just trying to be cautious, they're just going 3,500, which is kind of disappointing with a phone that big. But then you got to realize also the Note 7's exploded, so I'm okay with that just because, well, you just got to be careful. Also, these phones are going to come with the highest capacity right now is going to be 64 gig of internal memory for storing, of course, pictures, photos, apps, anything you store on your phone is going to use 64. But then again, you do got a micro SD card expansion. They have not announced any like 128, 250 or whatever gig model. The highest model you can go for right now is 64 gig. Will that change in the future? Yes, that may as well change in the future. It looks like the new net it will support, of course, all the latest connections like your Bluetooth, your Wi-Fi. It looks like the Bluetooth in here is going to be a version 5.0. I'm not sure because I haven't really been keeping up on cell phones lately, like the S7 and stuff. I'm not sure if those have latest Bluetooth technologies. Those could as well, but it looks like this one may be, in fact, the first phone or one of the first phones coming out that's going to have the latest Bluetooth technology on it. I don't know if this phone actually supports the 5G network because I know companies now are getting ready to, in the next coming years, to get ready to release 5G speeds. 5G speeds are really going to hit the market pretty soon in the upcoming years. It is not far away in the future. So I would assume that this phone would support the new 5G speeds when they start rolling out from the top carriers in America. I would assume so, but I'm not 100% sure of that. The rest of the stuff is just your normal stuff I'm looking at. Pretty much everything's going to be the same around the board. One thing is, also, I did forget to mention on the specs, since this thing does have an infinity display and there's no bezel or hardly any bezel anymore, they don't have any physical home buttons anymore or any tactile buttons on the front of the phone. You are going to have on-screen buttons like on your actual screen, just like the Nexus line is known for. If you've used any of the Nexus line, like the Nexus 7, Nexus 9, a lot of the Nexus devices, they don't have any physical buttons on the front. They're all software buttons on the phone. Honestly, that's what you're expecting with a bezel-less phone or nearly bezel-less phone. The one nice thing they did actually do is they did actually put the they still kept the fingerprint scanner on the phone. They just moved the fingerprint scanner on the back. One thing I did notice about the fingerprint scanner, or what people are saying about the fingerprint scanner, is that the fingerprint scanner is actually a little bit close to the actual camera on the back. So you may actually accidentally touch the camera on the back. So just be warned of that. You may have to. But now, since they also did bring back iris scanning or eyeball scanning, you might not even use that much because that is back from the Note 7. They're continuing that. And that is much more faster and everything. And most likely, if it's actually good, you're going to want to use iris scanning instead of fingerprint scanning on the actual phone. And then, of course, this will come also, of course, with the latest Android operating system, which I think right now is still Android Nougat. So you will be getting the latest and greatest when it comes to Android. One thing they did announce, which I can't really talk too much about, and I don't know much about, they do have a new assistant again. The thing about Samsung is they did have assistants in the last phones they've used. They have their own dedicated assistant, and with this phone, they do have their own dedicated assistant. It's called, I'm not even going to lie to you, I don't actually know the name of it. I wasn't actually really paying attention to it. It's something with a B. It's like Bloomy, Blimpy, or something with a B, I know for sure. I didn't really look too much into it. The reason is because I know in the past Samsung has talked about their assistants, and honestly, their assistants have fallen flat compared to the Google Now and to Siri and all that stuff, just because it wasn't up to par. This one may actually turn out to be good, but we'll have to see when actually people get the phone if they're going to use it and whatnot. Because a year from now, that assistant could actually be dead for sure, and no one may not even end up using that assistant. From what I've seen, it looked okay, but it didn't look like something you're going to want to use all the time. I just need really more information. I didn't really look too much into it, and right now it's still in the early stages of development. Of course, through the year, it'll probably get more updates and stuff like that, and it'll be more useful, so you can't really say. One thing I did know 100% sure about this phone, speaking of the assistant, I know for a factor that it has a dedicated button on one of the sides for the assistant, and if the assistant is a bust in a year or a year and a half, then that button is definitely going to be useless. They'll have to reprogram it or something like that in the future, which is definitely going to be a downside. So I'm not quite sure why Samsung wanted to put a dedicated button for their new assistant if it could turn flat. That probably wasn't the best and safest thing for the S8, putting a dedicated button for that assistant. Overall, the S8 looks like a pretty promising phone. It's pretty much the S7, just more of the S7. So if you love the S7 or if you love the S6 or the S line, you're definitely going to love the S8. There's enough improvements here where you may want to consider, again, you're going to have to just think about it. It's your money, and just think about if you want to make that upgrade from the S7 if you already own the S7. But this phone is definitely promising. It looks, from the back, it looks pretty much like the S6 or S7. You really can't tell too much difference. But then when you turn it on the front, that's where you can really tell the difference from the rest of the S6 and S7 line, or the Note 5. You can definitely tell a difference from the front. And honestly, with the design, it looks kind of funky, honestly. When you first see the S8 line and you see that infinity display, it just looks kind of funky with having no bezel or mostly all screen on the front. It does look a little bit weird, but once you, honestly, when you start using it, you're probably going to fall in love with it, because having no bezel or not that much bezel on the front is a good thing. Who really wants a thick bezel on a device? Most people don't want a thick bezel on a device, and there's really no point of it. So more screen real estate is definitely going to be nice. Overall, this phone looks promising, looks nice, and that's pretty much all I have to talk about of the Samsung Galaxy S8 line. Will there be a Note line following, even though the Note 7 exploded? There's actually been rumors about that happening, and I wouldn't doubt if a Note 8 does come down the line. It probably will come down the line. Anyway, guys, peace out. I'll see you guys later in my next video. I'm out, guys.